My story of hope is based on a parable that Jesus told about the lost son. There was a man who had two sons. The younger one said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the estate." And so he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his field to feed the pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired men have food to spare? And here I am, starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate." So we have here the story of a foolish and selfish young man who wasted his inheritance, who reached rock bottom, and then thought he could sort of bargain his way back to be with his father. But his father runs out and embraces him and accepts him and restores him. And he doesn't even seem to listen about the excuse about or the negotiation about being a hired servant. He restores him to his place as a son. I became a Christian in my early teens, but in my late teens and early 20s, I wandered away from following Christ. And I got into some foolish behaviour, selfishness and some wasted years. And I reached a low place and eventually made a rather stumbling journey back to God, back to following Christ. And so in that sense, I can relate to this parable, and I'm sure many people can. Wind the clock forward a few years, and outwardly, I was part of a church, got a family, doing well at work, but inwardly, I was in a very bleak place. I seemed to be full of doubts about the past, doubts that my sins were forgiven, regrets, doubts that I was even a Christian. I felt distant from God and distant from people. And there were various incidents, events, a few, and I again came to the place where I saw God as my Father who looks out for me, who runs out to me, who embraces me, who accepts me, who welcomes me, who reclothes me and brings me back home. And even in more recent years, wind the clock forward, even in more recent years, there have been bleak times and times when I've descended a little. The clouds have descended, and I have come back again to my Father. And I just love that picture of the Father who waits and who watches and who welcomes and who embraces. And if you're not a Christian and you're listening to this, then there is a Father who's waiting for you, a God who's waiting to welcome you. But very much in my thinking as I was preparing this talk is people who have in the past decided to follow Christ and lived as a Christian and gone on well with God, but who've slipped away, who've gone to a distant country. And my hope is that you find your way home, because there is a Father who's waiting for you, who's waiting to welcome you, to embrace you, to restore you, to say to you, beloved daughter, beloved son. And so I hope you find your way home. So thanks for listening.